in Christ alone. Know His power in quietness and trust. I'll say it again. Find rest, my soul. Find rest, my soul, in Christ alone. Know His power in quietness and trust. We'll see, know His power. We know His power in quietness and trust. We'll say that again. Know His power. Know His power in quietness and trust. We'll just do that for a moment. Let's just stay here for a moment. We're just still in this moment. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed me. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed me yet. Sing, I've seen you move. I've seen you move. You move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I've seen you move. You move the mountain, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I see you do it again. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed me yet.
Thank you for your faithfulness. Father, thank you for your faithfulness. Come on, just lift up your voice and just begin to thank him for his faithfulness this morning. We thank you for your faithfulness. We thank you for your faithfulness. Even when we don't see what you're doing, even when we don't know what you're up to, there is a stirring within us that you're doing something. God, something that we can't fathom, something that we may not be able to land on at this moment, but soon we will land on it. Father, so many are in transition. So many are waiting upon the new season to come. So many are awaiting. The almond blossom to open. The spring is here. And Father, I thank you for the promise you gave me several weeks ago that in the spring it will spring forth. Help us to let go of the past. We thank you for the the previous season. But God, we await with our hearts full of expectation. A new season is upon us. Spring has begun. Help us to trust you. Help us to trust you. God, speak to your people this morning. Father, speak to their hearts. Encourage their faith. Set us in the right direction. Help us to adjust in this transition. Help us to let go. Help us to honor the past as we reach for the future. Have your way. Have your way in us. Have your way in our hearts. I ask you to teach us and to show us your will. Father, I want your will to become mine. So many people are longing and asking, I want to know God's will for my life. Father, would you let us capture your heart this morning. Your heart, your plans, your will for each and every one of us. Teach us from your word, your truths. God, I thank you. God, I thank you. God, I thank you. You're a good God. You are a good, like the song says, you're a good, good Father. That's who you are. Would you just lift your hands to him just for a moment and just begin to thank him? If you're comfortable with that, just lift your heart. You can quietly open your mouth. You can express loudly, however you choose. Just take a moment and just begin to thank him. Just begin to thank him. Just begin to thank him. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. There's going to be an issue for all of us in this season ahead of us. And the issue will be trust. This will be a season where God is going to require for you and I to lean much heavily more on him. He wants you to trust him. He wants you to trust him and not to doubt him. Even when you don't know what's going on or what's happening or if the change is ever going to take place. He wants to lift the burden of worry off of you. He wants to lift that burden of doubt off your shoulders. As you stand in that hallway with the door ahead of you that is closed, but a door that's behind you, your past, is also closed. Move in the direction of the door in front of you. Even though it is closed, it will open. Because one of the things that we learned last week is that Jesus specializes in unlocking doors, even if he has to walk through them. Let us not be like the disciples who gathered in that room after he hung on the cross and they heard no news. And they gathered in that house, in that room, afraid. And Jesus, after the resurrection, shows up, doesn't knock on the door. They don't open the door. He walked through that door. God, I just thank you for the doors that have been closed. They will be unlocked. And all the things that we've been so afraid of will disappear, because perfect love casts out fear. Thank you for loving us so much. Thank you for the future that you've promised us. I thank you for your purpose and your plans concerning us. God, I believe you for great things. I believe you for great things in my life and in the lives of these that are here and those that are watching. God, teach us. Teach us to move forward in faith, even though that door ahead of us may be closed. But we know the time is coming and the season is upon us when those doors will open for your glory and for our good. And all of God's people said, amen and amen. Can we give the Lord a clap offering of praise? And man, he's so good. Listen, I know we already did it a bit earlier, but I want you to just take a moment, get out of your seat, go greet. I know you're going to hate me because we already did this, by the way, but I want you to do it just one more time, this time a shorter span of time. So just get out or shake the hand of those around you, introduce yourself. Just always as a reminder, we are a church family. We're not an organization. I love you, buddy. I love you, Ian. I love you so much. What are you doing? Oh, you are insane. I sure love you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you that are watching online. I think we've got our cameras working, and thank God we got our cameras working. And it's great to see you. It is so good to see you. You all look so good. And to all of you that are watching online, you're insane. I don't even know why you do so, but I'm glad you do. And how I pray that, thank you, Trey. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for standing with us. Thank you for just praying and sowing and believing. It means so much. It's amazing to me every week, all the people that watch online. I'm thinking, why? But they're crazy, and you're crazy to show up. So a bunch of crazy people who love Jesus. Yeah, I'm so grateful. So let me sort of get started with this, because this is going to be one of those I'm going to have to navigate through all of it. It has been an unbelievable week for me. And so I have to sort of process. This is what you're going to see now. This is how I process as I'm talking, because I'm like, there's so much. And so I left on Monday to go to Charlotte, and there was a conference there that was put on by Coke Consolidated. They're the bottling company for Coke. They're I believe the largest bottling company. And when I tell you, it rocked my world. It was put on by the most amazing people I've ever met in my life when it comes to their hearts for God's kingdom. And so I was invited by the VP, I believe, of like culture and diversity, and through really one of my younger brother, Mike, who, that's a whole nother story, but he's the reason behind it all. He's the reason behind a lot of things in my life, and that's why I'm crazy about him. And so anyway, so I went not knowing what to expect. And basically what this was a gathering of business people. SunTrust was represented, Duke Energy, and we're just talking about, VPs, presidents of companies. But the whole focus was, how do we bring God's presence into the workplace? And so it's called T Factor, Transformation Factor. And basically their whole thing is, for example, Coke Consolidated, the president of Coke Consolidated, his name is Frank Harrison. When I tell you, if I took the word humility and had to define it, I would simply show you his picture. I have never met anyone that walked with more humility, more love for Jesus, more love for God's kingdom than this man. And so 17,000 employees at Coke Consolidated. It was so life transforming. So it was a small group of about 50 to 60 of us. And I was invited to sort of see what they do. Here's just an example. One of the things that Coke Consolidated does is they have 85 chaplains on staff. Now, let me rephrase that. There's a ministry called Corporate Chaplains of America. And these chaplains, they're corporate. Corporations will hire them to basically be there 24/7 on call to minister to their team members. So when someone goes through a divorce, rather than a coworker talking to a coworker about their divorce, then that coworker has no idea what that other coworker that's going through the divorce is actually experiencing. What happens is the morale of the company begins to go down. Productivity goes down because you've got people now, I'm going through this and I'm going through that. And so what this Corporate Chaplains of America does is they actually provide a chaplain for that company. And so now you've got a chaplain that is available 24/7 to help somebody go through the loss of a loved one, a divorce, anxiety, whatever. And they specialize in these things. It was so moving. You're talking about 120 million people in America that struggle with either sexual abuse or some form of abuse, substance abuse, anxiety, and then here's another shocker: 40 million people in America dealing with porn. So their thing is 120 million people are battling issues, and they're all in our workplace. And so if we can provide health insurance, why can't as a company, why don't we provide for them spiritual, right? Because at the core of everything is the spiritual man. And if you can change that, so they have, I think it was 200 prayer groups within Coke Consolidated. They've got mentoring programs. I mean, like thing after thing after thing after thing after thing. And their whole passion is this. This is their purpose. This is everywhere. So you've got the truck drivers that are on the road for hours at a time. They know that if they have any issue, they can literally open their phone, go to an app, and be in touch with the chaplain within 10 minutes. And their whole aim is, how can we take our staff and build into them the spiritual responsibility, or that God loves them, and nothing is forced on anyone. They've got Muslims and Jews, and so nothing is forced on anyone. But it's their whole purpose is, how can we bring God's presence not only into our corporation, but how can we bring God's presence into the drivers, into the workers? How can we introduce them to the greatest relationship they will ever have, and that is a relationship with Christ? And it's not just them working for us, but it's about their eternal life. And so we will provide for them all these things for them to come to know God and to experience His love for them. It is unlike anything I've ever seen. I'm telling you, what churches long to do, they do it day in and day out, and it's their passion. In all these years that they've done it, there's never been one lawsuit. I mean, they work within, and then, so what they do is they provide for all the businesses that are beneath them. They provide the same, so basically they want to take this and model it for not only all the companies that are subsidiaries of Coca-Cola, but also for any other company. That's why SunTrust was represented. Duke Energy was represented. There was the GM of Lexus was there. He was sitting actually right next to me. So I'm sitting there going, what am I doing here? And but I want to tell you what happened, and then I want to get into the message. So I get there. It begins Wednesday morning. I don't know anybody. I just know one person, and that's Reg. Reg was the one that invited me, and he's the one that, like I said, he's like the VP of. So let me go, because I need to make sure that I get all of that right. But anyway, so he's the Vice President of Culture and Stewardship. And so basically this conference was kept intentionally small. So I come in on Wednesday, I walk in, and there's a short, maybe a half-hour introduction, a prayer, and then we're going to eat. And so, this is me. So what do at the Coca-Cola Consolidated Tea Factor gathering? I bring in a water bottle by the competition. I'm not kidding you. I had no idea. If you told me, who made, I don't know. It's water. I bought it at the airport. I had it in my duffel bag. I brought it with me, and I put it on the desk with my Tea Factor, my Coca-Cola. Within seconds, a young man walks up, and he just removes the one bottle, puts up. He said, ours is way better than our competitors. And just so great. He doesn't take it away from me. He just takes it, and then he just puts it down, and I took it aside. So this is the way I introduced myself to Coca-Cola, that I'm coming in here with the other. So anyways, so the short little gathering in that half hour comes to an end, and now we're going to go eat, and then we're going to reconvene. I sit down, I grab my plate, I sit down, and I go to a table all by myself. A man comes up, two men walk up to me, Spanish, older gentlemen. They said, "Can we sit here?" And I said, "Absolutely, of course." I said, "I'm the rookie. I don't know any." Yeah. So we sit and we begin to talk. I had no idea who these people were. The one man, his name is Ernesto, and we just begin to talk. I start sharing things with him. He asks me my name, why I'm here, and we just open. I just open up. And we just had such an amazing conversation. And then he says to me, "Now, before you leave, let's make sure we exchange contact information." I said, "Absolutely." And I said, so I hugged him, and I said, we're friends forever. And because it was just like that kind of bond. So we go back in, the meeting reconvenes, and then they introduce Frank Harrison, who is the president of Coke Consolidated, the CEO. When I tell you humility, like humility in shoes. And he comes and welcomes everybody, but I noticed that Ernesto was sitting next to Frank. Next thing I know is I find out slowly over time who this man is. He's retired, but he actually he was the CEO not only of Coke Consolidated in all of Mexico, but all of Latin America. Like the most influential man who is now actually beginning to mentor, I believe, like he's that close to. Anyways, so at the end of there's so much that happened, but I walked away with connecting with people who were so influential. And I'm telling you, it was the favor of, that's all I can tell you, the favor of God came. Because here I am, pastor of a small church but 34 years of experience. Next thing I know, I am talking to all these different people, and some I was actually ministering to, which goes back to the prophetic word from 2 weeks ago when David Hudson was here, about how God was going to use me to, basically there would be a gathering of leaders, and it wouldn't be ministry, it would be family, and it would be organic. Well, all I can tell you is, let me finish it with this. This is sort of what happened. So there's so many meetings. It was an all-day Wednesday dinner Wednesday night. I met with the corporate chaplain of America, the CEO. We began to talk. Thursday morning, he goes back into 7:30. We're in, and then it ends at 1. We're all sort of having, hugs and saying goodbye. And so I said to Reg, I said, listen, before I leave, I'd love just to talk to you about what I sort of walked away with. I know I'm leaving so much out, but I couldn't, for the sake of time. I couldn't share everything with you. So he and I just sit in his office, we talk, and I'm just sharing my heart in the way that I felt like I connected with these amazing. He said, you realize like all the people you connected to were the key influencers. And I said, well, I felt a real connection with T Factor. He said, well, do you remember at the end of the meeting, he said, when Frank said, we want to take this globally, and how many of you will help us do that? And so literally 50, 60 different corporate people, listen, they had university presidents, they had, it was just so many amazing people, like theologians, and one guy taught on the kingdom principle in the workplace. I mean, just stuff that would just make your mind go, these guys are living it. And so he said, so Frank says, how many of you will help us take it globally? So we all lifted our hands. So Reg says to me, he says, do you remember when Frank did that? I said, yeah. He said, and everybody lifted their hands. He said, so when we left, Frank came to me and said, 3 people, something inside of me, there's 3 people you need to follow up on because we want to take this globally. And he mentions 2 African-American women that super, super people. And then he said, and Sam. So the 3 people, I was one of them. Now, what will happen? I don't know. Will anything happen? I don't know. But I can tell you this. This is my point. When God gives you a word, when God places his hand on you, don't put it in a box. Don't put your life in a box. I don't know. Like I said, there maybe nothing will happen. But I can tell you today, I can go into that building on Coca-Cola Boulevard in Charlotte, Texas. And I've got people in there that literally my heart has been joined to. First time, never met them before. When God gives you a word, don't let go of it. And I think a part of what has to be done is there has to be this change. There's such a paradigm shift that's going on in my life right now. That's why I'm like, it's been literally hours of staying up trying to figure out where am I supposed to go this morning. Because I know where so many of you are. You're asking the same questions that I've been asking for some time. God, I want to know what your will is for my life. I'm in this season of transition. I don't know what's happening. I know what I love. I love my local church. I love pastoring. I love where my life is right now. But I know yet there's something more in me, and I know that it's not over. And so I've been in this, and then, David Hudson comes, and there was the word that I gave the week before that about in the waiting, and then David comes and he releases that, that God shift, that whole word, and then, prophesies over me. And to be honest with you, till today, I actually don't know what he said. If it wasn't for my brother Mike, emailing me because he was watching and he's typing, because I stood up here and I phased out. I still have not watched it. I haven't transcribed it. I couldn't tell you what he said, except that when Mike emailed me, one of those points were exactly what happened within days. Within days. And to be able to pray with people who are VPs of companies. And so what I'm saying to you is that I just believe with all of my heart that don't limit God's will for your life. Don't limit God's plan for your life. And maybe that's a part of the adjustment that needs to. So let me go here. So I'm going to go to something that literally was this morning. Luke chapter 5 verses 36 through 39. I'm going to just, so listen, it's going to be like a rabbit trail this morning. Can you all just come along for a little bit? All right. Yeah, because there's so many things, like the gerbils in here are really, they're on like
on steroids. Like they're running so fast, so by the end of the day, they will crash. All right, because here's one of the things that I think we need to learn. We need to learn to adjust in transition. Because so many of us are in this moment where we feel like our life is in this transition, and that transition could be a short season or a long season. But I know it's a season. I'll come back to that in a moment. All right, so then Jesus, this is Luke 5, verse 36. Then Jesus gave them this illustration. No one tears a piece of cloth and from a new garment and uses it to patch an old garment. For then the new garment would be ruined, and the new patch wouldn't even match the old garment. Sorry, old people's glasses. Verse 37. So watch what he does here. He's talking, there's 2 parables in 4 verses. And no one, let me go back, verse 37. And no one puts new wine in old wineskins, for the new wine would burst the wineskins, spilling the wine and ruining the skins. Verse 38. New wine must be stored in new wineskins. Verse 39. But no one who drinks the old wine seems to want the new wine. The old is just fine, they say. Let me go back. But no one who drinks the old wine seems to want the new wine, because they say the old is just fine. Well, I think here's what I walk away with. So I'm looking at this, and this is literally, like, this is within hours of this. So this is, I'm still brewing this as I'm sharing this with you. So we're talking about old and new garments in this parable. And it's also talking about putting on new wine, putting new wine into old wineskins. So life is full of transition. All of us are in some kind of transition because we can't live without it. Your life cannot live without transition. Here, for example, physically, our life changes. The older you get, things are going to change. Right? Hopefully for the better, because you've gotten a bit smarter. Psychologically, we change. Socially, we change. Because, and see, here's how I mean this. Socially, we change. How many of you actually you still have your friends from high school in your life? Some, maybe a few, or maybe none. In other words, socially, we change. Spiritually, we change. That's why transition is a part of life. So in other words, we can't grow without transition. And here's what happens. Time and experience will bring wisdom. I say it this way. We learn 2 ways. Mentors and mistakes. That's how we learn. Mentors and mistakes. If you don't have a mentor, you need to find one. Because your mentor should also be your tormentor. Right? They have to be able to torment you into going in the right direction. Education opens doors. Here's the reality. Culture waits for no one. So we've got to learn to change and adapt. Leaders aren't born. Leaders are made. Man, I watched it in that room. Leaders are made. When you hear their stories, when I heard their stories, when they shared about how they got to that position, they were made. They worked. So everything, I'm about to shift, everything has a time and a season. The danger is when you begin to think that last season is it, and that last season is going to last a long time, or that it's going to be for a forever season. It isn't. Everything has a time and a season. Don't try to recreate memories when the season has come to an end. That still is a part of my struggle. The season of the past. Seasons for 17 years of my life, of pouring my life into people that I loved. The danger is you try to recreate those memories, but the season has come to an end. So I go back to that. You're in the hallway. The door ahead of you is closed. The door behind you is closed. What do? You are either going to position yourself to look back and to keep waiting and possibly go back to the old, or you're going to look ahead and believe that that door is there for a reason. And it may be a door that you didn't expect, or a door that you don't understand. As I walked through that door of Coca-Cola Consolidated, I had no idea what I was walking into. But God did. And God didn't wait till the end of the conference. God, literally within 30 minutes of walking in that front door, I was sitting with one of the most influential people in that room. Not only sitting with him, but actually exchanging contact. And now we actually are friends. I couldn't tell you much more about him, because it wasn't connecting with him about all of the things he had done. It was connecting with him about what God desires to do in his life and in mine. And how through our lives, as in all those men and women that were in that room, how can we take God's... And here's the thing, and this is... Okay, I'm going to go from my heart here for a second. Here's what we've got to be careful of. We've got to be careful that we do not become so consumer-minded at church. We're simply just consumers. We're just here to take in. Here's what we need. We've got to shift in this. We've got to get discipled. We've got to grow in our walk with God. We've got to know that it's got to be more than this. Because here's the deal. You and I are going to stand before God. You will stand before God, like it or not. And here's what he's going to ask you. One question as a believer. What did you do with the gifts that I gave you? How many people are sitting on their hands in the church who can be making an impact in this world? And it doesn't require thousands of people, just one life at a time. Are we willing to take somebody by the hand and just say, you know what, I'm going to walk with you through this situation. I'm going to pray for you. That's why to me it's such a privilege for me to just be able to pray for people that I privately do quietly and on my own. It's just something I love doing. And so I do. And then I watch God, even after just quietly praying for them, something begins to happen. So my point is this: we got to get serious. Listen, and I'm not just saying you, I'm saying to all of us, we got to get serious about our spiritual life. Like, are you seriously happy with where you are? Are you making the impact that you're supposed to make? My point is, we just got to get serious about this. We got to get, how many people anymore read their Bibles every morning? How many people are having devotions every morning? How many people are really serious about taking time to pray? What are we doing? So we show up on Sunday and, okay, so we've become I think that's the word, we're consumers. We're just consumers. But there's no real change. There's no real impact. We're not taking this outside of our little world, inside these four walls. Man, I got to see it. I got to see it in living color. A corporation saying, we care so much about our staff that we want to make sure no matter what they go through, we can provide something for them to help them. Even if they never give their life to Jesus, we want to be Jesus to them, that they know we care. I mean, this was their, I'm going to go back to this. Hold on. This was their, this is, because I love this. Everywhere, this is what it says. It's on their walls. It's on their walls at that huge company. Our purpose at Coca-Cola Consolidated is this. They said, we believe that, we honor God in all that we do. Right there. We honor God in all that we do, serve others, pursue excellence, and grow profitability. So this is what we do. We honor God in all that we do. That goes all the way down through all 17,000 employees. We honor God in all that we do. And literally, there's so much more to this. And then the second thing is we to serve others. This is their mindset. And I'm thinking, if the world can gain that mindset and be selfless, a corporation is instilling biblical principles in their team. If they can provide 200 different gatherings for prayer or mentoring, there's got to be more. There just has to be more. And I'm thinking, how many more companies out there? Well, I mean, when I read the statistics, or when they showed those statistics of the improvement in corporations just because of the corporate chaplains, the morale, the welfare, the spiritual welfare, the emotional stability. Like just imagine that you work for a company and they've got a chaplain on staff for you. That when you struggle with loneliness, or when you're struggling with anxiety, or you struggle because your daughter just lost her baby, and literally that's their care. I love this because they've got their purpose, they've got their values. So here's just some of their values: accountability, consistency, courage and conviction, discipleship. Discipline, honesty, integrity, humility, morality, optimism, respectfulness, supportiveness. I'm thinking, this is a company. And so I left that gathering with a huge paradigm shift that began to help me see my life with a different lens. Like I said, if God only allowed me to go there and to see it, I can tell you I walked away, because the whole thing at the end of it all was, what is your one takeaway? That's what we were challenged with. What is the one takeaway? And the takeaway was, go make a difference. Go make a difference in one person's life. And man, I walked out of that place knowing that there had been such a paradigm shift that I began to look at my life with a different lens. So let me shift to that. So it made me begin to ask God, I want to know your will for my life right now. I want to know your will for my life in this season. Obviously, something is shifting, and I don't know what it is. And I'm like so many of you. The door behind me is closed. The door ahead of me is still closed. But all I know is I've got a choice. Am I going to sit and stare at the door behind me, or am I going to begin to move forward to the door that's in front of me that is still closed, but I'm going to still move in faith because I know who's behind that door. I know who can open that door, and I can't. Are you with me? I want to move forward. How many of you are with me on that? I mean, just your life. I just want to move forward. I don't want to exit this planet going, well, I sure had a great time, and I did this, and I did that, and I did this, and I helped change no one's life. I've lived just consuming and consuming and consuming and consuming and consuming. And I'm thinking to myself, and please don't take this wrong, because I don't mean it in any way as an offense. We got more overweight people in the body of Christ. And I'm not talking about overweight just physically. I'm talking about overweight spiritually. You've been consuming for 35 years, and what in the are you doing with your life? It's time to get off of our... I'm so glad things are... I want to say things, and I know I would throw so many people off right now with that. So anyway, so I just got to this place. There has to be more. Is there more? Where can I make a difference? Where can my life make a difference? How can I help grow people's lives? How can I help them draw closer to God? Am I making a difference? These are all questions I ask myself. Is God's kingdom advancing through my life? Can I do more? What is the more? Hopefully I can help you understand some of this. So I began to ask myself, what is God's heart truly? What is God's heart? What is God's heart for me? No, not God. It's just not about my will anymore. I want my will to become yours. I want your will to become mine. I want to know what God's heart truly is. So my questions: what is it that He desires? What is it that He wants me to do on this earth in my time? Where do I fit in? The same way that when I walked into that gathering of corporate people, I'm not a corporate guy. But I found this: it didn't matter. It didn't matter what they owned. It didn't matter that they were business people, and it didn't matter that I was a pastor and I was a minister and I was a leader in the whatever, the Christian world. No, here's what mattered: we're human beings, and we've all got issues, and we all need each other. And so maybe what I can provide is some spiritual encouragement and enlightenment or whatever to them, because their world is so wrapped up in the corporate. But here's what we had in common: we all loved Jesus, and we all wanted to make a difference. And so I said to myself, where do I fit in? Where do I fit into this group? Sitting next to me, the former CEO of Coca-Cola consolidated Mexico and most of Latin America. And we're talking about Jesus. He says to me, this is just great. He says to me, he looked at my name because Roberto, his friend who was there also for the first time, so he and I connected because we were both rookies. And so he said, Roberto asked me, and here's what, learn. Conference people, learn. You know what they did on your name tag? They put your name on both sides. Because sometimes I have the tendency to flip it over so that you don't ask me the question that I always dread to be asked. Oh, are you related? So he did. He looks, and I'm like, I flipped it over. It's like, crap. So, like, I put it in here. And he looks at me and he says, are you related? And I literally put my hand on his shoulder. Don't know who this man is. Here's my point. Just be real and be you. Stop this fake, praise the Lord. No. I mean, do it, but not like that. Just be real about it. All right, good. So I put my hand on his shoulder. He says, are you related? And I said, well, if it works for me, yes. If it works against me, no. And he just started laughing. And so he said, no, I went, and he's telling me the conferences or, the crusades. And I said, Ernesto, I was there. 1991, San Antonio, I was there. No, yes. Right? It wasn't like we didn't go deep in this conference. Well, what does the Lord say out of Revelation? We didn't care. Then he said, yes, and in Mexico City. I said, Ernesto, I was there in Mexico City. And I said, and we didn't meet. But 30-something years later, we're sitting next to each other at a table at Coke Consolidated to talk about Jesus and His purpose and His plans for our lives. Tell me that's not God. But you understand, I think people just long for us to be real. And I'm thinking to myself, where do I fit in? What am I doing here? I don't own some nationally owned company. I'm no president. I'm no CEO. I'm just a guy that's been through hell. But you know what I found? The more people I talked to, they began to open up. And that was a part of the favor that came. What I'm saying is that God's doing something in your life, and He's doing something in my life, and it may require an adjustment in this transition. It might require that you change, and that you stop reliving the past. You honor the past. This is a word for one of you in this room. What you've been through, you've been through. Don't discard it. Honor it. Honor it, but reach forward. Because God will use everything that you went through for what He's about to bring you into. And so that's why so again, I just come back. And so here was the thought that came to me. You and I have been offered uncommon grace from an uncommon God to live an uncommon life. I'll say that again. You and I have been offered an uncommon grace from an uncommon God to live an uncommon life. I don't want to live a common life. I want it to be uncommon because we've been given uncommon grace. I'm going to miss out a whole lot of here. I love this. This is Job chapter 14, verses 7 through 9. Even a tree has more hope. Listen to what he says. Even a tree has more hope. If it is cut down, it will sprout again and grow new branches. Though its roots have grown old in the earth, and its stump decays, at the scent of water, it will bud and sprout again like new seedling. I love this. What's that saying? Here's what's it's telling us. Even a tree has more hope, even when it's been cut down. I love this. So if you've been cut down, I've got good news for you. It will sprout again and grow new branches. Even if you've been cut down, God will take everything that has been cut down. And he says, though its roots are old in the earth and its stump decays, listen, at the scent of water. That's what you and I need. We need another encounter with the living water. We need another encounter with the Holy Spirit. We need another encounter to awaken to the purpose of God in our life. And he says, so at the scent of water, it will bud and sprout again like new seedlings. I'm going to get to one thing in a second. Proverbs chapter 29, verse 18. I lived my life on this verse. I did a whole entire series just from this one verse. So here's what Solomon is telling us. He's basically saying that if you don't have a vision for the future, you're going to simply live your life confused and running around in circles. Proverbs 29:18, where there is no vision, the people cast off restraint, but happy is he who keeps the law. Where there is no vision, if you don't have a vision for your life, what you're going to do is you're going to throw off restraints. The things that should keep you in focus, the things that should keep you like a horse. You've got those blinders on and you know that I've got one direction to go. I can't look to the left. I can't look to the right. I can't look back. I got to go ahead. Where there is no vision, people cast off restraint. And I've said this for many, many years. The reason that our prison systems are filled with men and women, it's not because they're evil. It's not because they're bad. It's because they had no vision for their life. So they threw off the restraints. They lived their life wildly. The New Living Translation says, when people don't accept divine guidance, they run wild. But whoever obeys the law is joyful. I love the Message translation. If people can't see what God is doing, they stumble all over themselves. But when they attend to what he reveals, they are most blessed. When you don't know what God is up to, you stumble all over yourself. But when you know what he's doing, when you attend to what he reveals, that's where your life is blessed. So I thought to myself, how do I get there? Because I realized that I've never felt this urge to live my life to its fullest. And this desire to understand that for me, I want to land right in the center of God's heart for my life. That's why I said earlier, what's on his heart for me? Not my heart. What's on his heart for me? Why do I want to be, because if I'm in the center of his heart, I'm not worried about where my life goes. What is God's will for your life? What is God's will for my life? So I challenge you. I'm sure many of you are asking that question right now. I just don't want you to wait till you're 50 and 60 and 70 to finally figure it out. That's why I love when I see these young people here. Attach yourself to God's will for your life. What is God's vision for your life? And I'm going to show you how to get there real quick. So I began to think about David. David, a man after God's own heart. If you know anything about the Bible, almost everyone who has ever opened the Bible knows that about King David. They know that he was a man after God's own heart, and it was actually God. This, by the way, he was a murderer and an adulterer, and God says about this man, this is a man after my own heart. So something must have happened in David's life. I'm so glad that you open this Bible. I'll say it over and over again. If this Bible was written by perfect people, not one of us could relate to it. And the only reason that you and I relate to it is because it was written by broken people just like you and me. And here's the truth. Every one of us is still broken. Every one of us still has issues. Your issues are different than mine, but you got issues. So you know what we connect with? Issues. And how can we help each other through our issues? Y'all are way too quiet. He was a murderer, he was an adulterer, and yet God is the one that gives him his title. God gives him that title. And so here was my takeaway from studying his life. His life is that the man or the woman who will do God's will be called a person after God's own heart, because David desired to do God's will. So in other words, I began to ask myself this question: what is God's heart? What is God's heart for my life? And that's something I'm telling you right now. I'm not talking about last week or 2 weeks ago. I'm talking within, well, it would be last week. 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I couldn't have said this. I want to know, what is God's heart for me right this second? I want to know. I want to know all of it. And so I'm pursuing it. All right, go to Romans chapter. I'm going to go to Romans chapter 12 for just 1 second. Well, actually, it's going to be for more than 1 second, because I want to just help us begin to transition. How do we get there? How do you and I get to this place where we can know what God's will is for our lives? Listen to 1 John chapter 2, verse 6. It says, "Those who say they live in God should live their lives as Jesus did." Let me go back to this. Those who say they live in God should live their lives as Jesus did. So I want to live my life the way Jesus did. Is that possible? Sure it is. Because we've got the power of Jesus living on the inside of us. We've got the Holy Spirit on the inside. So I want to know. And so, but here's the problem. Here's the dichotomy. I want to live my life. I want to literally, those who say they live in God should live their lives as Jesus did. But my problem is we live with a sin nature. We've got this dichotomy. We want to do what Jesus did. We want to walk like Jesus did. We want to love like Jesus did. But then we got these issues. And the bottom line, we've got this sinful nature. We struggle with it. It's for many of us, it's our natural state. We don't think like Jesus. We don't act like Jesus. We don't move like Jesus. Let's just get very real about this. You don't. And neither do I. Well, thank you all for coming. May the Lord bless you. We don't do that 24/7 because we've got a nature in us like Paul. The things that I know I should do, I don't do, and the things that I shouldn't be doing, I do. Oh, come on. All right, I'm going to sip a coffee because you guys are just, You think it's coffee. But anyways. Our nature and our tendency as fallen beings is to do what doesn't punish us. So if you're like me on the interstate, you'll go 10 miles over the speed limit knowing the cops won't stop you. It's not worth it. All right. All right, so we have our nature, our disposition, our tendencies, and we think, if I want to find God's ways, if I want to find my ways into God's heart, if I want to fulfill something, if I want to fulfill His will, then something has to happen. Something has to change. There has to be a transformation. There has to be an adjusting. There has to be this season that we're in and this transition that we're in. Something has got to shift. I don't want to be revisiting this season next year. I know spring is going to come. I don't want to be the same guy. Okay. I don't want to be the same guy tomorrow. Most likely, I will be. And so will you holy, holy people of God. I know better. I deal with some of you. All right, so let me see if I can break this down for you quick. we find at least a part of the answer in this. How do I know God's will for my life? Romans chapter 12, verse 2. I'll read it out of several different translations, maybe, because of time. I really believe that this is probably one of the most impactful chapters in the Bible. Read it from beginning to end. Let me focus on verse 2 for a second. And so Paul says this, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove, there's so much in here, that you may prove what is that good, acceptable, and perfect will of God. All right. Write these 4 words down if you can. If not, Sammy, if you put them on the screen. Correction, direction, way, result. Correction, direction, way, result. This is how you begin to, this is how God takes you from a buckshot to a bullet. This is how God takes you from, a 5,000-foot view to a 5-foot view of your life. Correction. It begins by correction. Here's the correction. Do not be conformed. Correction. Don't be conformed. It's a powerful word in there. To this world. All right, so let's look at the word. The correction. Conformed. What does that mean? Conformed. Assimilation. Shape one's behavior. Systemization. Pattern. Mold. Don't be assimilated. Shaped. Molded by this world. Are you with me? Okay. Don't fit into its patterns. Don't allow the world to box you in. If you want to know God's will for your life, it will begin by you do not be conformed. Why is this so important? Because to be conformed, he's saying, don't be who the world wants you to be. Be the person that God wants you to be. Don't live your life swimming with all the fish going downstream. Be the salmon that goes upstream, because there's something different about your life. So he's saying, don't be what the world, don't be what the world wants you to be. Don't learn from the world on who you are. Do not be conformed. This is the correction. So God wants to bring correction. Stop thinking the way you used to think. Stop thinking the way the world thinks. And then he says, all right, so let's go on. I got to get into this. All right, so don't be conformed. Correction. World means what? It actually means evil age or era. Or until of time, world systems or practices of those who are without God. In other words, the world is full of chameleons. They love you today, they hate you. Oh, welcome to the church. I'm sorry, I got those mixed up there just for a second. Don't be conformed. Don't be a chameleon. Be you. Don't be conformed by the world's patterns of thinking. He's saying, listen, the world will press you into a mold, but to be conformed is to have the world so tightly packed around you that even God can't. You remember those? Well, you probably have them where you buy, like these bags, and then you put something in there, you put chicken in there, and then you suck all the air out. Vacuum. Vacuum bags, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? Some of you are looking at me like, what in the world? All right, maybe, okay, I don't know if they're still out. Anyways, well, you know what I'm talking about. You can go to the frozen section and buy a piece of fish, and it's frozen, and it's all the air is sucked, so it preserves its freshness. Don't allow the world to suck all the air out of you. That's you. Trying to tell somebody about Jesus' love, but okay? Don't be conformed. Don't let the world so tightly close in around you. He says, don't be conformed to it. So let's go on. All right, so that by the way, It means con. The word, this is from the Greek. Con means with or together. So Paul says, don't be conformed or with or together with the world. And so here's the correction. Paul wants us to correct ourselves and not be conformed, but be transformed. All right, so the word. Oh, I love this in the Message translation, by the way. He says, just listen to it. He says, don't become so well adjusted to your culture. Old man glasses. All right, so don't be so well adjusted to your culture that you fit into it without even thinking. Instead, fix your attention on God. You'll be changed from the inside out. Readily recognize what He wants from you and quickly respond to it. Unlike the culture around you, always dragging you down to its level of immaturity, God brings the best out of you, develops well-formed maturity in you. I love that. All right, so correction. Don't be conformed. Direction. Be transformed. All right, that word transformed, I'm sure you know in the Greek, it's metamorpho or metamorphosis. What does that mean? Trans. If you've ever watched a caterpillar, we're very familiar with this. A caterpillar that becomes a butterfly, it goes into the cocoon. And then it breaks out of the cocoon and it is transformed. So there's a metamorphosis that takes place. So don't be conformed with the patterns and the molding of the world, but be transformed. So there's a metamorphosis that takes place. And how does that happen? He gives it to us. Are you ready? Y'all are way too quiet. What is wrong? Are you just, you're taking it in? All right. I'm glad you said that. Because I was telling myself that, even if you weren't. Just to make myself, no. All right. So this is what happens before a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. Okay, so the word trans, beyond, through, changing thoroughly. That's what's happening to the caterpillar. It's inside that it's inside that cocoon, and there's a metamorphosis taking place. So instead of being pressed into a shape, you actually burst out of that mold and you become something totally different. So don't be conformed, but allow the metamorphosis. Allow the change, because that thing that was crawling on a million legs is about to fly. But there has to be a change. Are you with me? There has to be a change. We got to get serious about our lives. There has to be a change. You are one heartbeat away. In about 3 more weeks, we won't hear that. But I love them. I'm so happy for them. I actually am. All right, so let's go to the last thing. How? This is how, and I'll stop here. How? How do I go from being not conformed to this world and I need to be transformed? I want God to do something so deep inside of me. I want God to do something so big on the inside of me. I've got to go through this transformation. So, in other words, when your perspective changes, in other words, that's how you look at life, your perception changes. I want God to change all of our perspectives. I want you to begin to see your life through His eyes. I want you to begin to live your life not in how you see it, but in what you know on the inside of you, how He sees your life. And when you begin to declare what He sees about you and what He knows about you and what all the things that you are to Him, we've got to go through this transition. I'm not this. I'm not that. I'm not this. I'm not, no, but this is who I am. It's what He said. This is who I am. And so how do I do that? How does that happen? Well, He lays it out for us right here. So in other words, let me go back. So when your perspective changes, how you look at things, and then your perception changes. In other words, it means that you rise above the circumstances and the world's desires for you. That's why I love what Co-Consolidated is doing. They are a publicly owned or shared company, but they're bringing the kingdom of God into that company. And they are making such an impact among 17,000 employees, let alone all the other companies that they're connected to. So you go beyond the world and what it's trying to conform you into, and then you transcend to transform. So you got to begin to change the way you think. Here's the third thing he says, and here's the way. How do we do this? We got correction, direction, way. How? The how is right here. Looking at verse 2. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by how? Come on, just say, Samuel, would you put it up there, please? By the renewing of your mind. Sorry, that was me. Right. By the renewing of your mind. All right, correction. Don't be conformed. Direction, transformed. How? Renew your mind. Renew your mind. What does that mean? By the way, I love this because, all right, so don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Present tense. This is a continual, ongoing process. Please hear me as I wrap this up. This is an ongoing process. You're not living today by the faith that you had when you got saved. Right? If your faith hasn't grown from the day that you gave your life to Jesus, this is why you've got a lot of issues. We should constantly be changing, constantly renewing our minds. So he says, renewing your mind. So this present tense, this continual, ongoing process. By the way, renewing your mind. All right, I'm sorry. Maybe I've been in the charismatic church too long. For a lot of my growing up years in the charismatic church, they left their brains at the front door. And they got in, and it was all so emotional, and then this wasn't used. Like everybody wanted to fall out. I'm not against it. But it's like, you want to fall out in the Spirit, that's great. Change it's not when you go down. I had a lady, it's still a running joke in my life. I had a lady way back, when we were at OCC, and she came up after the service. She said, "Oh, Pastor, did you notice me today?" I said, "Yeah, among the 7,000, yeah, I think I did." She said, "I fell down 39 times. Okay, no, this is truth. And she'd happened to be meeting with me on a Tuesday. I'm counseling. So you fell down 39 times on Sunday. I didn't notice. So why are you here? Because if you fell down 39 times and the Spirit of God touched you, I'm just figuring you're good." So the real change isn't when you fall down, because so many of us have fallen down, but it was a courtesy fall. Because we didn't want to be the only one left standing up. Oh, shut up. Right? You look around you, it's like, oh, they went down. Now, I pray that for all of us, right? But I've taken a few of those. I'm not going to be standing there, everybody's down, and I'm just... And you know the church, they all judge that. Oh, there must be something wrong with him. He didn't fall down. Here's the deal. The Holy Spirit, I don't need to fall down for the Holy Spirit to touch me, because it's spirit to spirit. Boy, I could... Because all those people that fell down all those years ago were the most judgmental people when I fell down. But I didn't fall down in the Spirit. But they sure knew how to shoot in the Spirit. Anyways, sorry, moving right along. All right, so here's my point. Let's not renew your mind. Renew your mind. Not your spirit, your mind. What is that? Your mind. Psychologically, that faculty of understanding, reasoning, the way you think, mental attitude. Here's how you change. Correction. Direction. Here's the way. Renew your mind. Use it. I have a sip of coffee right about now. All right, so in other words, the renewal of the mind enables you to discern what is good. If I said, how many of you want to know God's will for your life? Right? A whole bunch of us. Don't do it, because I know, and I love you, you're here, and I love your openness. But two, everybody watching, we want to know God's will. I don't know what it is. Right here. Don't conform. Transform. Got it. Use your brain. Use your brain, because he said when you begin to renew your mind, when you take all of that, God gave that mind to you. Use it. And renew it with God's word. And listen to what he says. This is powerful. The renewal of the mind enables you to discern what is good, what is pleasing to God, and what is perfect. In other words, then I can discern by the renewing of my mind. I can discern, is this the right car? Is this the right Is this the right one? I won't know unless I try it. I test it. All right. All right, so, Trey, come on up, buddy. Oh, he's not there. There you are. Okay. So, how is your thinking different? Here's my question. How is your thinking different than it used to be? Because if God has influenced you, that means the way you think should have changed. All right, so again, my question, how has your thinking different? How is your thinking different than it used to be because of God's influence on your life? Is it? Is it? So what is God's will for my life? If you really want to know what it is, he says it. Let me just say it. All right, so don't be conformed, correction. Be transformed, direction. Renew your mind, the way. Listen. Then he says, that you may prove. How will you know unless you prove it? How will you know unless you test it? You don't buy a car without test driving it. Come on, are you with me? Some of you ladies, men, you don't buy clothes unless you try them on. All right. That's how I know. I don't know by laying on the floor and crying for 8 hours. That may happen. You know by, my mind is renewed. My mind is on the promises of God without being overly weird. Right? If you're talking to somebody, talk to them. Don't talk to them in King James. Talk to them. Be normal. All right, that was the stretch. So he says, this is how. Prove it. When you renew your mind, that you may prove, test what is good, what is acceptable, and the perfect will of God. So how do I know? The more I renew my mind, the more I disconnect from the world, the more I'm transformed by the way he thinks, what he thinks of me, his will for my life. And then you know what? I'll try it. I love this because David said this. Same connection. Psalms 34:8. Taste and see that the Lord is good. How do you know that he's good? No, talk to me. How do you know he's good? Taste. Taste and see. How do I know he's good? I taste it. It's good. I like it. I love you guys. You know what? Here's what really sucks. You have no idea how hard I struggled to just do this and trying to find my way through all of this. And it's like, I'm laughing now because it's like, yeah, I think it might have connected. Because I was so worried till like 12:40 in the morning. You're welcome. Oh, no, please. No, you're welcome. No, please. No. All right, so here's, by the way. All right, so correction, direction, way. Last thing, result. Here's the result. That you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. So what is the best way to prove that anything works in your life? How do I know? I don't know until I test it. I drive it. I try it on. Oh, I thought these jeans fit. They didn't. And I am notorious for not trying stuff on and then having to spend more money filling my car up with gas to return it. Most guys, I think we're that way. It's like, no, that's perfect. I know it's good. I don't want to waste my time in the fitting room. Then you find yourself right back. Need a bigger size. Testing, proving, tasting and seeing that the Lord is good. There's so much more. Oh. Come on, let's stand to our feet. I know that so many of you are in that same space as I am, and you're just trying to find your way because you know the door behind you is closed, and maybe the door in front of you is locked. But my encouragement to all of you that are watching online, don't turn back. Don't go back to what was. The truth is, it's not there. If somebody would have said to me, even a month ago, or maybe 6 months ago, that you are going to be sitting with a group of successful business people who are going to be doing something about God's kingdom, and somehow you'll be connected to it, I would have told you, you are out of your mind. Because I'm a pastor through and through. Why would God ever open a door for me to connect with major influencers of probably one of the most famous brand names in the world? Only God could have done that. Only God. Will anything happen? I'm not worried about it. Because it was about connecting with the right people. So I'm just saying to you, and this was my prayer. This is literally my prayer. Lord, if you've done this for me, then do this for the people that I love. Do this for the people that have stood with me. And so my prayer is that God will begin to open doors in your life, that God will bring the right relationships in the season that you're in. Because I can assure you this, maybe the friends in the past season can't go with you. They can't. And they might actually hinder you from moving forward. So it might require you letting them go. So Father, I pray in Jesus' name for every single person who desires to know your will. God, there's this longing within them, wanting to know what your heart is. They want to know your heart for their life. They're not satisfied with where they've been. And if they are, I ask you to stir, even remove that satisfaction, because there's more. There's more for us to do. There's more for us to accomplish. Help us not to just be consumers, where we take in and we buy and we've gotten so spiritually overweight, unable to move. What would Jesus do? Our problem is we're so big we can't get up. So God, I ask you to stir within us, not in the natural, but in the spiritual, a passion to get up and do and move and do and move, to be your representatives, ambassadors of reconciliation with our hearts, our voices, our words of confirmation, our words of comfort. God, give us a hunger to grow in our faith, to become not just Christians or believers, but disciples, that we can act upon all that you've done. Help us shift in our thinking. Forgive us for conforming to the world. But today, God, we ask you to help us detach ourselves from the world in the way it thinks, in the way that it operates, that it doesn't shape us nor mold us. God, give us a hunger to know your will. I ask you to give us a hunger to know your heart for us, as it was in creation. We want to know your plans. We want to know your purpose. We don't want to exit this planet without fulfilling the very reason you put us here. We can attain so much and die so empty, facing an eternity, not 10 years, not 5 years, but an eternity, having really done nothing but lived for ourselves. So thank you for the correction. Thank you for the direction. Thank you for the way that our minds will be renewed. Renewing our minds. Because someone greater on the inside of us is leading us. God, I ask you to help us to begin to see and think of the way that you feel about us, what you think of us, rather than what everybody else thinks, what the world thinks. Father, thank you that it begins today for many of us. Our minds will be renewed. We will renew our minds by studying your word. Help us to think like you think. Give us a new mind that will study your word, a new mind that will seek your face. God, there's no magical way that we can bring impact. There's no magical way for us to know your will apart from hungering for your word, renewing our minds with your word. So God, I ask you, today I give you my mind. I don't not only give you my heart, I give you my mind. Undo it from the past. Undo the thoughts and the patterns of the past. That it's not just our faith, but it's our logic, our emotions, our memories, our thoughts. I ask you to redeem our intellect. Father, help us to know what is good and acceptable and perfect. Help us to know your will. Help us to know your desires. Help us to know your purpose, your intent, your inclinations. Lord, that happens when we begin to renew our mind, to discern what is good, what is pleasing, and what is perfect. God, give us discernment to know the difference between your will and ours. So I give you my mind. I give you my heart. I give you my life. God, help me to make a difference. God, help me to make a difference. God, help us to make a difference. Would you just take a moment? If you want to lift your hands, you can. If you want to just take a moment and just you begin to ask Him. Ask Him. For those of you watching, please join us. Just begin to ask Him, help me make a difference. God, how many people can we touch this week? If we only touched one person this week, if we just made a difference in one, collectively, how many lives? God, how many lives could we touch? Send them our way. Allow us to cross paths with them. I trust you. I trust you. I trust you. And now, Lord, before we dismiss and enter into a time of worship with Trey, I thank you for the privilege of sowing into your kingdom. I thank you for the privilege of sowing into your plans and into your purposes for our lives. Father, thank you for the privilege of sowing the seed that you gave us, Paul said. So let a man purpose in his heart what he's going to give. Lord, we don't do it grudgingly. We don't want to do it out of necessity, God. We want to do it cheerfully, hilariously, knowing that you've provided for everything we have need of. Lord, we do it from our hearts. So we purpose in our hearts right now. We want to honor you with our tithes. We want to honor you with our seed. How amazing. You're the one that gave us that seed. You're the one that provided everything for us. And you said, if we will honor you with that seed, then you'll multiply that seed back to us. But it's yours. But you multiply it back to us. Because we care about your kingdom. We care about people. We care about those that are hurting. Father, I thank you. Father, I thank you. Thank you for the privilege of allowing us to partner with you. God, we get to partner with you in this, in making a change in people's lives. So church, listen. You guys, I think many of you know me probably well enough in my heart to give. I'm only asking because it's on my heart to ask. It's not for me. There's 2 families right now that are struggling that I know so much about. I wish I had it, and I've already sown. I've already given. But if God speaks to your heart, because I want to help them, not a great deal, but this is a way that we make a difference. This is how God blesses you. When you give of what you have to help somebody who doesn't. You'll never outgive God. Never. You'll never outgive God. Never. And so if God speaks to your heart and maybe $5, $10, I'm going to take all of that and I'm going to bless this family to say this is how much our church cares. And to be honest, if you don't, I'll find a way to do it because I care. And I know I'll never sow into someone's life without, and I know these families and they're good soil. Listen, look at me. What determines the return is not the seed. What determines the return is the soil. When you sow into good soil, there's going to be a return. So that's why I encourage you. And if it's not for them, do it for somebody this week. Fill somebody's tank up. Take somebody to lunch. Just do something that just helps you to become more like Him and selfless. So for those of you watching online, if God speaks to your heart, the website is there, tgporlando.com. You can go there, and I'm telling you, my eyes are on it just because I'm going to do something for both of these families. Because you know what? God wants us to. And I just say thank you. There's another way you can do it. You can text TGP to 50155. So if you can zoom in on that, Kev, then that way you can do it two different ways. Or you can go to our website. Or you don't need to do anything at all. But we want to honor God. Are you ready? Are you ready to do it? Okay, you're not ready. Are you ready to do it? Are you ready to go home? Yeah, okay, I see. I got that. Good for nothing, people. I love you with all my heart. Get ready for something to shift because it already has begun. Just realize there's going to be an adjustment in this transition, but get ready. I just believe this with all of my heart. For some, you're going to walk right into the will of God for your life, and it will be effortless. Amen? Many of you are already in it. We just got to turn it up a notch. I love you with all my heart. Have a great week, everybody. May the Lord bless you. Come on, let's worship the Lord. Take your time. Come. Honor Him at these baskets. Again, there's no pressure for anyone to do anything. Only as you purpose in your heart. God bless you. Have a great week. Have a great week. Love you guys.
It's who you are.